Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. This is BSV 10,000 hours. We are committed to providing truthful and thorough education in Python code and Web3. Unlike other channels that claim you can learn the basics in a few hours, we've demonstrated that mastering just the fundamentals takes at least 31 hours of dedicated study. Everything on this channel you can access for free. All the tools that you need to learn to code and get certified are for free. Also, just to help ease your learning process, we have 5 playlists on this channel. So the first playlist is Step 1, Python Basics. We're also working currently on our Step 2 series on Intermediate Python. We have a series on Web3 coding where we've already started applying what we've learned directly to the Web3. I also have a series on the Web3 legal framework, as that falls more in line with my expertise since I have an LLB degree. And lastly, as you can see, I enjoy my music. So I do actually have a music channel, which you'll find in my playlist. And that is centered around music that's for focusing and to help create a calm ambient environment. Today, we are looking at list comprehensions in Python. It is one of our more advanced topics, and you will see, let me just share over our screen. Yeah, so this is list comprehensions. I am actually looking at this for the first time. Everything here on this channel is unscripted. I'm learning it live with you, and this is a shared experience. It doesn't look like we'll have a lot to cover, obviously, depending how complicated it is. So we're looking at a relatively short video today. So I'm going to open up our ChatGPT and let's get started. List comprehensions is a very powerful tool which creates a new list based on another list in a single readable line. For example, let's say we need to create a list of integers which specify the length of each word in a certain sentence, but only if the word is not the word the. So already we can tell we're going to have certain conditions. So we can see here already we've got an if statement. But not only that, it looks like we're going to have to iterate over the list, right? Or the characters within a certain, like in this sentence, the characters in the string. So we're also going to have a for loop. So over here we have a variable called sentence, and our value, our value to our variable is our string, and the string is the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. We've created another variable here, which is words equals sentence dot split. You will recall that we have covered split previously on learnpython.org. So we should know how that works. It's basically going to split the individual words in here. And then we have another variable, which is basically an empty list. Remember, the square brackets denotes a list. So our loop looks something like this. For word in words, remember words is our sentence over here, but split, okay? Don't forget your colon for our Python syntax and our indentation for our Python syntax. if word not equal the, then word lengths, which is this variable we created here, dot append length of the word. So we're going to basically append, which is this over here. We're going to specify the length of each word in a certain sentence. Then we want to print words, which is our split sentence. And we're going to print the word lengths, and the word lengths is going to be appended basically in here, in this string or this list, sorry, which is currently empty. I just want to see it right. So with our for loop, remember with our loop, so the exercise or the question is we want to specify the length of each word in a certain sentence, but only if the word is not the word that. So remember, our loop will run for as long as this is true. So for every word that is not, which is this not equal the, then it will append the length of the word to our word lengths variable. So I think that makes sense. So we can run this code. So let's just take a look here. It has printed the words the. I just want to see here. Remember words, we didn't exclude here. We didn't exclude that in our words variable. We just split up the sentence. But it was important to do this step first in order to, my understanding, in order to then be able to take the length of the words and not apply it to that. Because remember, it's for word in words. So we first had to split it because at the moment it's just one big long string. Okay, so you can see here, all our words in this string have printed as a list in our first list here for words. And then we can see instead of the first element in this list here, which is word lengths being 3, which is what it should have been if we were counting the, you can see it has excluded the and it's gone over to quick. So quick is 5 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to actually zoom in so you guys can hopefully see a bit better if you're watching this on your screen. Why did it? I didn't need to do that. Now it's not showing it side by side. You know what? Never mind. I'm just going to refresh. So this topic is about creating a new list based on another list. So I'd like to just have a look more clearly where that actually comes in. Okay. Sorry guys, if you can just bear with me while this loads. As usual, I will include timestamps. All right, so we didn't apply list comprehension in that example because it actually says here, using a list comprehension, we could simplify this process. So I was going to say, I don't see how that's a list within a list. So the way we simplify this process, we still have our sentence variable, which is our string comprising words. We still split our sentence. And then what we do is we say word length equals len word for word in words if word not equal the. Print word length. There's a word for this when we write like our statements in a shorter form. Let me just see here. We actually did it today in our revision class for step 1. Yeah, so it's called, well, we'll check now, double check, but in the example we did today, it was the ternary conditional operator. Basically a shorthand way of writing our code. But I don't think it's quite the same because we're not assigning a value to a variable, or are we? We are, because this is our variable and we're assigning this value, which is basically a list of the length of the words that are not the. So we're going to paste this into ChatGPT. Is this also an example of ternary conditional statements? Oh, okay. No. The code you provided is not an example of a ternary conditional statement. Instead, it includes a list comprehension with a condition. Let's break it down. Okay, let's see where we're not understanding this. So splitting the sentence, we know that. We know that this line, words equals sentence dot split, splits the sentence into a list of words using the split method. The result is words equals, and then we get a list of strings. So whereas before we had one string, now we've got lots of strings within a list. List comprehension with conditions. So that is this line of code here. This line creates a new list. We know that because of the square brackets, containing the lengths of the words in the words list. Why? Because it says in words, for word in words. Okay. But only for words that are not equal to that. This is done using a list comprehension. The if word not equals the part is a condition that filters out the word that. So that's this part here, if word not equals that. So just out of curiosity, I mean, we can run this, we'll get the same result. If we exclude this if part, it will probably give us a list of all the lengths, including that, which indeed it does. The len word part calculates the length of each word that passes the filter. the result is, yes, we know that. Then we print the results. A ternary, so this is important. I hope you guys are watching and taking notes. A ternary conditional statement in Python has the form. Okay, but that's actually, this is the ternary. You can still take notes anyway, but it's not for list comprehension. A ternary conditional statement in Python has the form value if true, if condition, else value if false. You see how we assign a value if it meets a condition, otherwise it gets, if it doesn't meet a condition. And remember, by condition we mean a Boolean value, true or false. Then it will have another assigned value. List comprehension with condition. This creates a new list based on a condition and applies an operation to each element that meets the condition. Because remember, we are iterating, which is basically a loop. It's a form of iteration. This for word in words means we are, and words is the split sentence, means we are iterating over each word in our split sentence. Whereas with the ternary conditional statement, it evaluates a condition and returns one of two values based on whether the condition is true or false. So this is not a ternary conditional statement because we might be getting a value out of this word length, right? But it's not if this, then that. It's not a situation where we will get one value or another value depending on whether the condition is true or false. So while both involve conditions, they serve different purposes and are used in different contexts. The code you provided is an example of a list comprehension with a condition, not a ternary conditional statement. So I'm going to say, duty note, however, I see that the list comprehension does not follow the normal syntax rules. For example, a colon in the for statement. Okay, list comprehensions in Python do follow a specific syntax, which does not include colons. Here's a detailed breakdown of the syntax for list comprehensions. The general syntax for list comprehension is, so we have an expression for an item in an iterable if condition. So that sounds a little bit confusing, but we know what expressions are, right? We have covered that. Our expression in this case, it could be something arithmetic, like is this value bigger than that value? In this case, our expression is the length of the word. And that's essentially the value that's going to print, right? Sorry, by expression arithmetically, I mean like adding sums or multiplying. For an item in iterable. So remember, for means it's a loop. It's going to have iterations. It's going to iterate over each element in our words, which we split from our sentence. So for item in iterable, the loop that iterates each time, over each item in the iterable. If condition, this is optional, a filler that applies a condition to each item. So maybe make a note of this, of the syntax for list comprehensions. Expression, and remember it's square brackets because it's a list, right? Expression for item in iterable if condition. Our iterable, remember, is our words. We have analyzed the example. I see here ChatGPT talks about clarifying the use of colons. In Python list comprehensions, there are no colons because they are not part of the list comprehension syntax. Colons are used for regular for and if statements to denote the start of a block of code. But list comprehensions condense these statements into a single line without the need for colons. In summary, list comprehensions do not use colons and their syntax is compact, combining iteration and condition into a single line. So I hope you guys got that. That basically where we used to colons when writing for and if statements, those are blocks of code. But if you think about a list comprehension, we're basically condensing it into a statement, which is a single line of code, so there's no need for colons. What I find interesting about what we've been covering since we finished all the basics is like, or what I'm enjoying about learnpython.org is we're reaching an interesting point now where we're learning about a lot of the tools within Python. So besides being able to obviously write in Python and know the syntax and know how to use functions and loops, we're now getting to the more practical aspects. So for example, when we started looking at dictionaries and we started looking at importing modules, when we looked at NumPy arrays and pandas and doing mathematical operations and even generators for like creating like a lottery system, we're now getting to see the benefits of different tools within Python. And already my mind is working like on projects that can have real life assistance. So let's move on to our exercise, and I'd like to keep this in mind, this syntax, and see if we can do this without help. Using a list comprehension, create a new list called new list. That's this over here. Out of the list numbers, that's this over here, which contains only the positive numbers from the list as integers. So positive numbers, I would say then it has to be greater than 0. Okie dokie. So how do we start it? New list. So we just start immediately with our loop. So we're going to use for. In our revision, you will find that in code blog 11, we covered in a lot more depth, for loops and while loops. When do you want to use a for loop? When do you want to use a while loop? There is timestamps if you want to specifically revise that. This is a for loop because we're iterating over a list. So we're not necessarily, although there's going to be a Boolean element involved because we're looking for positive numbers, but the fact that we're iterating over elements in a list means we're going to apply our for loop. So we're going to say for number in numbers, you're going to say if number greater than 0, we need to append. Where are we going to append? Oh my goodness, I'm defaulting to normal syntax. So we are doing a list comprehension. Just still, my brain still hasn't worked around it yet. So what if we said, it's all got to go in here, right? So suppose it's the same thing. For number in numbers, if number greater than 0, then we will print number. Do you think it's going to work? Invalid syntax. For number in numbers, if number greater than 0, print number. Invalid syntax. Of course, because we're not supposed to. I think we need to. No, we're not going to paint because it's a list comprehension. If number greater than 0, then let's just print new list. Print. So there was a syntax error because I had print, I think, in my list. So print new list. Didn't print anything. Still invalid syntax. For number in numbers, if number, maybe I can say return number, return number. Submit. Still not. Return, what if we do it in brackets? I feel like this is so simple. Still, let's take a look at this carefully because in our list comprehension, we had 3 variables. Now we only have 2. But here it was necessary to split the string, right? But I don't see why we would have to split it. Maybe we can try something like, oh, and it has to return them as integers. Let's say positive integers equals and now, oh, it kicked me out. That's weird. Let's close, open it. List comprehensions. We have an expression. What is our expression? I would say our expression is all the numbers greater than 0, surely, that are integers. Learn Python.org. Always glitches. So words equals sentence dot split. There's still something I don't understand about Python is like suddenly we have like word, right? And it just like comes out of nowhere. We haven't defined word as an element in here or here. That's words, I get that. But so we know, you see here in this example, we had to iterate over each word. We don't need to split this up. These are already split. So I feel like, I don't need to do another variable. For number in numbers, if word greater than 0, print, before we do that, let's just submit that. Oh, because we need an expression. Oh, goodness. Yeah, we're missing our expression. An operation to perform on each item in the iterable. An operation to perform. I don't know. I would say print numbers or number. And then to apply, let's just see if that syntax works. The name word is not defined. Yes, I know. Print if number. Okay, number. Okay, submit. Very nice. We finally got it. So you just got to get used to the syntax, okay? What is this none? Now, I'm only curious if I wanted to limit this to integers. Can we do that? Nope. Int argument must be a string. Or a number, not list. There's a syntax error because I've got two. Is it working? I see negative numbers. That doesn't look right to me. Number greater than 0. Well, -2, 3. What about greater than equal 3? You know why? Because I remember true for some reason becomes 0. Int numbers equals int numbers. Just curious. Probably terrible code. Yeah, it is. So I'm just going to ask for the solution. New list equals int x. Oh, well, I wasn't too far off. For x and numbers if x. Okay, so I didn't quite get it right. I was using print as my expression. That's also why I printed so many. It went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 times because there's 5 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or not. Anyway, so it printed it so many times. Then I got none. So in our expression, we weren't supposed to print anything. What we really wanted, your expression, maybe try and think of it this way. If your expression is going to be your new elements in your new comprehension, and in this case, it's really our number. So we could have said, and the int is there as I correctly tried to do, except I was using print. Numbers makes more sense to me, so I'm just going to change that to number. And you see we get it correct. So we just convert our number to an integer. That's what it's going to print, but it's only going to print the numbers in our numbers list that are greater than 0. So I'm quite happy with that, even though we didn't get it right. It's, our first time looking at list comprehension and getting used to the syntax. So on that note, we are actually done for this session. And tomorrow or in the next video, if you are watching this as a series, we are going to do lambda functions. Thank you so much for watching, and if you do find this content useful, I would appreciate a thumbs up.